Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here, and welcome back to another crypto video. And today we have a very interesting update on the Bitcoin price, as Amir actually put up a very elaborate analysis on Bitcoin. And he thinks that he can predict when the Bitcoin top is going to be, how high it's going to be, and the future of Bitcoin. Now, one big question that pops up in my mind is this going to be another Plan B type of thing? Is this going to be a guy who's going to be known for calling out the top time and time again and making a system which works? Or is it just another hoax or a very fan-made-up theory? Let us see, let us analyze. I think it's about to get very freaking interesting. But guys, I am making these videos because I think a lot of you might find it interesting. Please let me know by pressing the like button if you do, and letting me know in the comment section down below if you don't. Another question which I'd like answered is, do you guys believe in price predictions? Is there any price prediction you've ever believed in, except for zero, I guess? Let me know in the comment section down below. So this entire analysis is basically based upon Fibonacci, or the 1.618. It's a recurring number in this entire analysis, and phi, this little thing right here, stands for that specific golden ratio, which comes back a ton of times. Now, over in the top left here, we have basically ourselves a couple of months with the lowest and highest points that we could hit in that specific month, if that were to be the month that the Bitcoin peak would be in. Now, he clearly states in his analysis that he does not know what exact month is going to happen in because there's a little bit of a range. However, these are the prices that we should hit within that month to basically get the peak before everything's going to kind of reset and come back around. Now, using planar geometry, I have deciphered a geometric code that appears to allow a precise and accurate price prediction of the Bitcoin cycle high. The green rays emanating from the midpoint of the base of each of the Kepler triangles are parallel and pass through the exact point coinciding with the Bitcoin cycle high. So basically, we got ourselves this Kepler triangle, which has a ratio of phi to the square root of phi to 1. That's basically what a triangle like this would look like. There's also a circle placed basically to all the sides of this triangle. And we got ourselves a midpoint of the triangle. And then we have a parallel line to the end of the Bitcoin cycle, the cycle high. And that is every single time that they draw a new triangle, we basically get the exact same thing to happen, right? That's literally what you're seeing right here happen time and time again, if you're wondering about that. So as that's put in, green rays emanating from the midpoint of the base, the angle they make with the horizontal is equal to the inverse of the 8th term of the Fibonacci sequence multiplied by 1000, basically equaling 0.047619. And remarkably, the angle they make with the vertical is equal to the golden angle, which is about 360 over phi squared is about 137.508 degrees. Now, the golden angle is the same angle responsible for the golden spirals observed in arrangements of many plant structures and whatnot, which is just a little bit of a definition. And that's also what he's doing right here, explaining how you came up with a Kepler's triangle, which is basically something that mathematics enthusiasts like. Some people say it's completely stupid. Some people say it's freaking sent by some higher power out there, and it works in every single aspect. For example, this golden ratio, people love it when using Fibonacci retracements in trading. If you have a chart and people put up this little Fibonacci, let's actually take a look at it. I can actually show you guys exactly what I mean with that. When people put up this little Fibonacci thing right here, looking like, oh, can I type it in? It's lagging a little bit, guys. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm trying to put in one. Here, this. Whenever you see people put in that, it's always Fibonacci that they're putting in, all right? So they're putting in something along those lines. And you can see here the 1.618, 0.618, all those things, they all coincide with this analysis to some degree, or at least with the golden triangle, golden numbers and whatnot. Now, how it works, you can quickly read here. The Fibonacci sequence is 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, where every next number is the sum of the previous two numbers. And if you divide, let's actually see here, any two consecutive numbers will always have the ratio approximately to phi, which is about 1.618, depending on which numbers you take. It will always come back on this ratio. So I should say differently, doesn't matter what numbers you take, it will always come back to this ratio. Now, the circle inscribed within Kepler's golden triangle, i.e. its inner circle, appears to play a fundamental role in governing Bitcoin price action. And this actually took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly what he meant, as I didn't fully grasp what the inner circle had to do with anything. I could understand the line from the midpoint of 4 because it touches the cycle high. Okay, very interesting to see that. And I could see how you build the rest around it. But the inner circle was kind of vague to me until I noticed he's talking about basically the upper part of the previous circle and the lower part of the next circle, where basically Bitcoin's price has to kind of reside in for the lowest part, so to speak. At least that's as far as I have now gotten it. The cycle inscribed within Kepler's golden triangle may play a fundamental role. The circumference of the in-circle, its horizontal diameter, and its two horizontal tangents all act as major support and resistance lines on the monthly price chart. And honestly, there's a lot of sense in that because, as I've said before, people often in trading use these Fibonacci numbers to do their own analysis. So the fact that these ratios or numbers in some way, shape, or form are related back to Fibonacci, from that perspective, it also makes a lot of sense to me that people use them in their trading, and so they could act as very heavy support and resistance banners. Now, examples are marked with black arrowheads, which are again shown here on the left, showing black arrowheads. Notice how in the recent bullish consolidation, price did not drop below $28.4 thousand defined by the inner circle tangent, as the low was about $28.6 thousand. They're referring to right here where, right here, where the lowest point, or basically this tangent line, was about $28.4 thousand, and the price only dropped as far as $28.6 thousand. Partially, I would say this doesn't really make too much sense because we're just talking about these lines as major support or resistance zones, not as the ultimate final line. So even if it crossed a little bit below it, like for example happened right here, you still consider this to be a major resistance or support, as we basically bounced right around that area. And same thing for right here. Right, this might for some people invalidate everything. It just depends because these lines very often people trade around them, not exactly on them. So it's not one-to-one. Now a line upwards, or sorry guys, an arrow upwards meaning support, arrow downwards meaning resistance. Instead of measuring cycle length from one cycle low to the next, I propose a new definition for Bitcoin cycle lengths, where the cycle is measured as the horizontal distance between consecutive inner circle centers, which is interesting. So inner circle centers, taking one center to the next one, that's how long the cycle basically lasts. So the middle here to the next middle, 4 cycles. And according to this definition, the Bitcoin cycle appears to be exactly 50 months in length, which is pretty long though. All geometric measurements and analysis were performed using PowerPoint and ImageJ, which I think is interesting because that took a lot of time to make. But all right, let's move on before we actually get all the way out here. I mean, it's a long analysis and there's a couple other things which you want to share. For example, the fact that Plan B has let go of a lot of predictions throughout the years. A lot of them. And honestly, if I gotta be completely honest with you, I think for a very good part he's been correct, and people now accredit him for it. As you can see, the amount of likes that he gets right now, people love him for his analysis because he's been right about the bigger picture for Bitcoin. But even if he's not, he's basically saying we're gonna go upwards in a little bit of a strange fashion, but we're gonna go upwards. And people just kind of hold themselves dearly to his thought process, not even caring if he's wrong or right about the exact price points ever, but about the fact that eventually Bitcoin will hit $1 million, eventually Bitcoin will hit $10 million. It's just kind of the fact that he puts up an idea that it can be predicted, and that gives people some sort of hope and some sort of certainty. Now, that besides, let's say he's actually right? Some people think November close above $98,000, which is needed for his model to be verified, is too big of a jump. Well, it is about 60% of gains from the current level. And yes, it's a big jump, but Bitcoin did this many times before. And here's a couple of examples from when Bitcoin actually jumped about 60 or more percent within months, basically. So right now we'd have to go about 60% up this month to still verify his model that he basically put up. I'm going to say it can still happen. Of course, it can still happen. I'll never say never. He's been right a lot of times before. But it's going to be a little bit more difficult than some of these other months to actually, I guess, get back on track. However, you could just adjust the model a little bit again, huh? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much, as you can always adjust the model slightly to fit the narrative a little bit better, like I talked about before. Me being the, kind of econometrician lover that I am, I like that, but all right. Moving on, these sides and medians of geometrically similar triangles act as support and resistance lines that govern Bitcoin price action within and across cycles. So we got a new analysis here. Bitcoin, this is about geometric similarity. Bitcoin's true previous cycles exhibit geometric similarity in that they can be described using the two geometrically similar triangles. Geometrically similar triangles are defined as triangles having identical angles but different in size and orientation. Now, assuming that the third and current cycle right here is geometrically similar to the ones that we've seen before, the size and orientation of this triangle will depend on the month in which Bitcoin peaks, because the triangle needs to be positioned with its upper vertex coinciding with the Bitcoin cycle high. And I've drawn one triangle with hypothetical positioning based on the cycle high, occurring in January 2022. But if Bitcoin peaks in a different month, the triangle will need to be scaled and rotated accordingly. Note that the smaller blue triangles are also geometrically similar to the larger ones in which they are contained. Okay. And interesting. I'm just kind of checking this out for myself as well. This is something that I can't really stand behind too much, but I do think it's interesting. The sides and medians of geometrically similar triangles act as support and resistance lines that govern Bitcoin price action within and across cycles. We get ourselves the breakout line. A monthly close above the breakout line marks the start of a new bull phase of this cycle. Start of the bull phase of the new cycle. Interesting. So our next one would be where? About somewhere at the start of 2022. As a side observation, if the April 2021 peak was the final top of this cycle, as indicated by the geometrically similar red triangle, then according to the previous cycle behavior, price should not have broken out of the triangle and to the upside as it did in August. So he's basically verifying now we need to see a bigger top even, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Following his model, that's true. Now, a median of the triangle in a line segment joining one vertex to the midpoint of this of the side opposite that vertex. Every triangle has three medians, one from each vertex, and they all intersect at a point inside the triangle called the centroid. The medians are numerically labeled 1 to 3, and I was intrigued to discover that the medians drawn purely as an intrinsic geometric property of triangles appear to function as an important support and resistance line governing Bitcoin's price action. Examples are marked. So he's basically calling out that they do count for a lot of important support and resistances. Then again, that is for yourself to be determined. This one is a little bit more far-fetched than usual, so I'm not going to actually agree or disagree with that. However, if you, for example, look at this line right there, you can indeed see Bitcoin kind of bouncing back from it. And you can indeed see from number one here that the price bounces back from it as well. I would say this is one of the most clear ones. So from that perspective, I'm going to say, let's give him a benefit of the doubt. It's definitely something to kind of think about. If you look back to line number one here, we can indeed see a couple of bounces from it. So yeah, maybe it's not so far-fetched as it might seem. But it's not as clear to see either. So the timing of the Bitcoin peak can geometrically be described using the golden ratio yet again. This one I think is even more difficult to fully comprehend. In an attempt to predict the timing of the Bitcoin peak, I generated this chart employing right angle triangles. Okay, he did. Now I discovered that when price touches the hypotenuse to mark the last bullish monthly candle of the cycle, it divides the hypotenuse in a ratio of the square root of phi to 1. In the case of cycle number 1. So that's what we're seeing right here. Square root of phi to 1. Okay. Or 1 to the square root of phi in the case of cycle number 2. So here's 1 to the square root of phi, cycle number 2. Okay. I'm also, again, thinking about it for myself and thinking if this makes sense to me, where phi is the golden ratio 1.618. Now, I predict that for the current cycle, number 3, it's going to have, again, the first ratio, which is the square root of phi to 1, dividing the hypotenuse in that ratio, predicts the peak to occur in January of 2022. Now, unfortunately, this prediction method can be very sensitive to the rotational angle of the triangle, which obviously is going to make things a lot more difficult because you don't know exactly how to actually draw it in. Depending on whether or not he took some numbers from the previous ones, there's a couple of ways to draw these triangles in, as there's no obvious right way to do it. You might say, oh yeah, but these are right angle triangles. Yeah, but it doesn't, it depends on how you shift the triangle for yourself a little bit, right? You can still shift to the left or to the right a little bit, and it will still make sense. So this one is a little bit more far-fetched. So from that perspective, all the other triangles as well, it depends on how you put them down. And other triangles with valid positionings can be drawn that predict the peak to occur as late as, for example, October of 2022, which is described in the gray area right here. I guess the peak can be somewhere in the midst of these. All right, and the number 4 here, This is actually just a small little recap kind of. For the current cycle, I expect to see between $200,000 and $300,000 for Bitcoin, if not more, if we get it later, the all-time high, with the exact target depending on which month the peak is in. Importantly, we'll be able to tell in real time that we have reached the last bullish monthly candle of the cycle, and therefore should be expecting the peak by month's end, when price breaches the hypotenuse and breaks out the Kepler's triangle. After the peak, I expect a bear market throughout 2022 and potentially even 2023, with Bitcoin's price losing about 83 to 91% of its value, and this will be the best place to buy in. If cycle 4 is structurally similar to the previous ones, then most likely we can expect to see a Bitcoin above $1 million in like early 2026, and it's still to be seen, but he does expect the next cycle to move in the exact, or at least in a similar type of fashion. Which I guess all we can say about is we shall see. It's about to get really freaking interesting on this regard. I'm excited for it, that's all I can say, and I'm watching it very closely as well, guys. I'll give you more updates to see how this one is following along, but I think it was a very interesting analysis, even though a lot of people call him out for saying it's really stupid and really dumb. I think it's fun to watch. So let's see this over the next couple of talks. Lumen and Eddie says, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how absolutely spot on you are. Excellent work. You'll shock yourself with the resulting accuracy. Some other people say, remind me in 1 month or so when things might go completely wrong or completely right. Juan here says, interesting. However, the line of maximums cannot be straight line because nothing goes up to infinity. The logical thing is that it describes a parabolic curve. It remains to be known when the curve will begin to be drawn. Okay. There's a cycle prior to the ones. Okay, that's just for previous things. So actually, the people are pretty nice to him, to be honest with you. Usually, people are really mocking him to the core. But I think it's also very interesting, even though I think it's pretty hard to grasp, and we can pretty easily, I guess, see whether or not this is verified or quote-unquote stupid, because he put some absolute numbers in. So I'm going to give him some very big props for making this. It makes a lot of sense. Specifically, this first one, it just draws out to me in logic, so I'm going to definitely be watching this carefully. It makes a lot of sense. And I guess let's just see over the next couple of months how right this person is. If he's right, then we should have definitely bought ourselves a good chunk of crypto right now, because we're going to get some crazy price surges over the next couple of months, and it's freaking bull season, baby. Having said that, wow, let's take a look at some other stuff. So Raoul Paul expected the path of most pain to be around December, which I think is also interesting, specifically if we take back to the previous analysis, which we just saw, December being the most difficult time right now, from a certain perspective makes sense, as people will be cashing out for Christmas, and usually around holiday times, people are a little bit more negative about their investments, a little bit more bullish about spending the money, basically, a little bit less investing like. If we're looking at the real ratios of things, people are actually quite excited about crypto still, but as I described before, looking at the fear and greed index actually does nothing, if you ask me, because literally tomorrow it can go to 20 if people all of a sudden change their mind, right? It just shows you how solid people have been. And I guess had things been a little bit worse, then maybe the average of this would have been a lot lower right now over the last month or so. But people genuinely are quite excited. And it does make a little bit of sense if you look back at the analysis that we should have had a little bit of a sad time throughout the midst, and right now continue on forward with the big gains following kind of the thought process of going up high, exponentially, I guess, throughout this little journey here, which again within the cycle we should have for the next couple of weeks. So I mean, even if we go down for another couple of days, I guess the month should end really positively for this to make sense, I guess, which can still happen. I want to talk about the altcoin season, but I guess I should skip that for right now. And then we come back to just telling you guys to check out Bybit. A link is down below for the crazy bonuses, and check out the Telegram. A link is down below for that too. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this analysis, even though it might be a little bit vague. I think it's very interesting and very cool. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think about it. And let me know as well if I did an okay job explaining it. Of course, I'm just trying my best. I'm not the author, but I will give him some credit where it's due, because I think it's pretty damn amazing, guys. So big shout out to Amir Ahmad for making this, writing this. Very interesting. And let us see if he's right or wrong. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed this update/video.